do have KM Bella with the ACLU here.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, my name is KM Bell, here on behalf of the ACLU of Arizona. I did, in fact, spend about an hour and a half, I think, on the phone today with some of the lawyers who are supporting this bill, discussing at length our concerns about the language. We are opposed to it as drafted because I think, unfortunately, it actually does criminalize light hazing. For example, if you look at the language of the bill, one of the items included is calisthenics, and the language is broad enough that it encompasses any club or activity at any high school or university. So it would, as currently written, criminalize if you made someone do jumping jacks to join the high school chess club. Obviously, I don't think that that was the intent, and certainly that is not in the same category of behavior as the dangerous types of activities that were referenced, such as making somebody consume dangerous quantities of alcohol resulting in death, which is obviously a dramatically different scenario. And so that, we have some suggestions in order to tighten up that language so that essentially it would require that the person being hazed is put in danger of actual physical injury. As currently drafted, the bill, talks about embarrassment and things of that nature that, certainly for those of us that were picked on in high school might want to criminalize, but aren't necessarily appropriate for the criminal law. And in terms of the Good Samaritan exception, while we think that is a very valuable part of this bill to ensure that students who do, realize that something has gone too far and try to help save someone's life are not criminalized, we would suggest broadening that language so that any crime arising out of the hazing incident would not be prosecuted against the person who, dropped the individual off at the hospital or something of that nature, because there are a number of existing criminal statutes that can already be used to criminalize hazing, such as reckless endangerment and assault. As well, a lot of times young people in these situations are worried about underage drinking, since, as we all know, the drinking age and the age for consuming adult use cannabis in the state is 21. And college students are usually not 21, so that can cause a lot of fear in terms of someone wanting to get help. And we absolutely want to see students who are in this dangerous situation, do everything that they can to help the person who, is suffering from alcohol poisoning or whatever the case may be at that time. Finally, in terms of acts in furtherance, I think the intent here is to get at an upperclassman who is sort of bullying the sophomore into engaging against engaging in the hazing of the pledge, those types of situations.
30 seconds.
Our concern is to avoid situations where a bunch of fraternity brothers agree and then someone goes out and buys beer, but before the hazing actually happens, they change their mind. And unfortunately, as drafted, that would still be criminal even if they later came to their senses and realized they did not want to engage in that dangerous activity. So we are certainly happy to continue to work on tightening up this language to address the dangerous situations and hopefully not address the silly pranks and things of that nature. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Members, any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, I do have a question.
Senator Gonzalez.
Thank you. I guess I do still have a concern even with the light hazing or what you're calling or this, because you mentioned somebody having somebody do jumping jacks to join the chess club. Well, depends on how many jumping jacks they make them do. They could be harmful.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Gonzalez, that is why our suggestion was that the calisthenics and things like that aren't necessarily harmful only be criminalized in situations where they could potentially cause a serious injury. So that would address those situations where somebody is forced to do 10,000 jumping jacks versus 5. Obviously, those are very different situations. I think there is a way to put in language to the bill that would address only where there's a danger of injury and not, situations where that's not the case.
Okay, thank you. Senator Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to
you had made the comment that you were concerned about the possible prosecution if some students talked about hazing somebody and then went out and got beer, but they didn't haze. What do you think the probability is of them being found out about that and then actually prosecuted?
Mr. Chairman, Senator Gray, unfortunately, the conspiracy law is so broad that, one of the people who were in the room could report it, for example, and extremely, I would say, overzealous prosecutor certainly could prosecute that under this bill, and that it would be preferable for the language to only criminalize conduct that you all believe should be criminalized rather than relying on anyone's discretion further down the line, that should be written into the law. We would argue that you all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And
Senator Gray.
just a comment. I just, knowing what goes on with the college campuses, I would just be shocked if somebody were to take a situation like that and actually try to prosecute. Maybe theoretically it could happen. I would just think that would be a pretty good stretch, since there's issues that do happen on campus that don't even get followed up on.
Mr. Chairman, if I could respond, Senator Gray. I think one of our concerns about that entire section is that it goes along with the Good Samaritan provision, where what we want is for, the young people who may be coming up with some stupid ideas, quite frankly, and getting themselves worked up and excited about it, to realize that this is a bad idea and not to do it. And giving them the opportunity to essentially come to their senses and not have them be criminalized because they take that intervening step of not engaging in that activity. I think much like the Good Samaritan law, that's exactly what we want to happen, is not to be able to prosecute them, but to have them not engage in the behavior in the first place that's dangerous.
Thank you. And members, just to expedite this, the sponsor did say he was amenable to amending the bill. And thank you, Cam.
Thank you.
To amending the bill to address some of these concerns.